March 1976. At the height of his career, Jackson Browne received a phone call that would alter his life forever. His wife, model and actress Phyllis Major, had been found dead in their Los Angeles home. There was no public farewell, no press conference, no dramatic statement. There was only a 3-year-old child left behind and a man quietly collapsing behind closed doors. From that moment on, the voice that had comforted a generation carried a crack that never fully disappeared. Jackson Browne stands as one of the great paradoxes of modern American music. He wrote some of the gentlest songs about love and longing, yet his private life was repeatedly marked by loss. He was praised as the moral conscience of the 1970s singer-songwriter movement, but behind the stage lights were years of exhaustion, doubt, and relentless self-examination. Success came early. His talent was recognized almost immediately, yet the price he paid unfolded in ways no hit record could ever compensate for. Browne's music was never born from glamour. It was born from unease, from questioning, from the quiet fear that ideals might not survive contact with reality. Every melody he wrote after tragedy felt less like creation and more like survival. Behind celebrated albums and applause stood a man forced to keep living as personal anchors gradually disappeared. His story is not simply that of a gifted artist. It is the portrait of someone tested by fate and still moving forward, one song at a time. Long before loss defined him, Browne had already grown accustomed to instability. He was born in 1948 in Heidelberg, Germany, to American parents working abroad. His earliest memories were shaped by a post-war Europe still healing. When his family returned to Los Angeles, the move felt less like adventure and more like quiet resettlement. He grew up in Eagle Rock, far from Hollywood glamour. Life there was ordinary, but music drifted constantly through radios, gatherings, and guitars in living rooms. Music did not arrive as a dream of fame. It arrived as refuge. While other children sought recognition through sports or popularity, Browne withdrew with a guitar and a notebook. Los Angeles in the 1950s and 60s was not just sunshine and opportunity. It was also a center of anti-war protest, generational doubt, and cultural transformation. Browne absorbed that atmosphere instinctively. As a teenager, he began writing songs and performing in small venues where sincerity mattered more than showmanship. He was shy. He faced criticism about his voice. He often felt he was not enough. Instead of retreating, he chose depth over flash. That decision would define his life. In the late 1960s, Browne entered the industry quietly, working behind the scenes as a songwriter. His songs found life in the voices of others. These days, written when he was still a teenager, gained international attention when Nico recorded it. He collaborated with the Byrds, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and Linda Ronstadt. He was praised as a remarkably mature writer, yet the industry doubted whether he could succeed as a solo artist. He was known for his songs, not for himself. That sense of invisibility made his 1971 self-titled debut album more than a release. It was an act of self-assertion. Against expectations, Dr. My Eyes reached the top 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. The album climbed into the top 15 and eventually went platinum. Industry voices that once questioned his marketability had to reconsider. Browne refused suggestions to soften his darker themes. He kept the emotional structure intact, choosing honesty over safety. From that point forward, he was no longer simply a songwriter for hire. He became a voice for a generation emerging from the 1960s with fractured faith. For Everyman followed in 1973, expanding his questions outward. If personal success required turning away from collective responsibility, was that price worth paying? Browne did not shout slogans. He interrogated conscience through melody. Critics recognized him as a serious artist, but recognition brought pressure. He was increasingly seen as a moral voice, a label that both honored and constrained him. By 1974's Late for the Sky, Browne had reached artistic heights. The album entered the top 5 and earned platinum certification. Yet beneath its beauty lay fatigue. Touring intensified. Lineups shifted. Browne's perfectionism created tension. He demanded honesty from himself and from those around him. In 1976, The Pretender arrived, climbing again into the top 5. The title track reflected on compromise in a consumer society. Publicly, he was celebrated. Privately, he was worn thin. Songwriting became painstaking. Lyrics were revised endlessly. Doubt shadowed every decision. Then, in March 1976, everything fractured. Phyllis Major died from an overdose of sedatives. Browne was not home when it happened. Their son, Ethan, was too young to understand the loss. Browne canceled appearances and withdrew from public life. His silence was not strategy. It was survival. Grief reshaped him. When Running on Empty was released in 1977, it rejected the safety of the studio. Recorded on tour buses, in hotel rooms, backstage, it captured exhaustion in real time. The album climbed to number 3 and eventually went multi-platinum. The title track became an anthem of depletion, not complaint but acknowledgement. He had reached commercial peak, yet pressure intensified. Hold Out in 1980 went to number 1. Still, critics debated whether polish had replaced rawness. Meanwhile, punk and new wave were redefining music. Browne, even at the top of the charts, seemed to belong to an earlier era. Lawyers in Love in 1983 embraced sharper political commentary and modern textures. It entered the top 10, but audiences were divided. Some longtime fans felt disconnected. Younger listeners saw him as established rather than rebellious. His bond with mass audiences gradually loosened. The latter half of the 1980s confirmed the shift. Lives in the Balance was artistically respected but commercially modest. World in Motion struggled on radio. Promotional support decreased. Browne did not chase trends. He continued writing what he believed needed to be said. His personal life remained complex. After Phyllis's death, he married Lynn Sweeney in 1981. They had a son, Ryan, in 1982. The marriage, quieter and more private, ended in separation by 1983. Later, his long relationship with actress Daryl Hannah drew intense media scrutiny. Allegations surfaced in the early 1990s which Browne denied. No criminal charges resulted, but public perception shifted. For the first time, his private life was shaped by headlines rather than silence. In 1993, I'm Alive marked a creative return. Sales were moderate, but critics noted renewed confidence. Looking East in 1996 further affirmed his independence from commercial expectations. He was no longer competing for chart dominance. He was writing from experience. Into the 2000s, his career settled into a steadier rhythm. The Naked Ride Home, in 2002, reminded audiences of his enduring presence. Time the Conqueror in 2008 entered the top 20, a rare achievement for an artist decades into his career. The album confronted time, power, and moral responsibility without nostalgia. Inductions into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2004 and the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2007 affirmed his influence. His estimated lifetime sales surpassed 30 million records, but numbers were no longer central. His legacy rested in honesty.